I would like to invite Anders from WirelessCar, and I won't mispronounce his last name, so I'll let him pronounce his last name, and joined by Andrea Calderoni, our AWS Technical Account Manager.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. My name is Anders Hallstein. I'm for WirelessCar, a company out of Sweden. And I will introduce you a little bit to what we do and what our area is about. So maybe we have the next picture here. Or do you want to say something first, Andrea, maybe?
Yeah, maybe something first. I would like to introduce the agenda. I was fighting with the controls to enable screen sharing while starting the video. So a few words about this session between me and Anders. Anders represents WirelessCar, which is the connected mobility provider for many automotive brands, and Anders will say more on this. And WirelessCar is totally on AWS, and I'm the technical account manager for them since at least 3 years, and I'm very proud to serve them, and I've learned a lot. So today we will talk about connected mobility in general. Anders will describe the concept, and then we will describe what the WellArchitected framework is, and the extension of this WellArchitected framework, which is the connected mobility lens, which we have developed together with WirelessCar. And in the end, Anders will describe how this connected mobility lens has helped WirelessCar in their journey to operational excellence. So, introducing to connected mobility and WirelessCar. Up to you, Anders.
So, thank you very much. So WirelessCar, I can say I'm very happy and proud to say that we've been around for 25 years now, and we've been working with connected mobility all those 25 years. And we had our first OEM signed already 2001, and we hit serving about a million vehicles 2012. And it wasn't that many years ago since we reached 2 million. And now we are serving more than 12, almost 13 million vehicles. And so we're certainly on the point now on the curve where you can start to talk about hockey sticks. So we foresee to be serving quite a lot more vehicle just in a few years. The company is nowadays a subsidiary to Volkswagen. So of course we are working a lot with the Volkswagen brands. You will find if you're driving a Volkswagen, an Audi, a Seat, or a Porsche, you will have services that we are providing. We are also having a big customers in Jaguar Land Rover, in Volvo Cars. We are servicing Nissan. We are servicing Subaru of North America, and some more customers that we are actually building solutions for right now, which I can't mention. So we have grown from very little, and you can understand when we started, we were building everything on the ground as you were doing then. So we've had the journey of lifting our older solutions from the ground into the cloud, and we've been working with AWS for quite a long time, about 10 years. And we also have several customers which were born in the cloud with us, and where the preconditions for building those solutions looked quite differently. So what is it then that WirelessCar is doing for the customers? Let's have the next picture. What is connected mobility? So take the highlights. So the basic thing is that we make sure that a vehicle is connected with services in the back office, and that it is provisioned with the necessary data to be able to communicate. And many of the first services that were around, at least in Europe, was about supporting eCall, which was a sort of starting point for a lot of connected services, where vehicles can automatically send a distress message to an alarm central. And Safety and security is still a big part of the vehicle. You can find where your vehicle are. There are many of our customers implementing stolen vehicle tracking systems. It is also becoming a precondition for many more exclusive vehicles to have a way to track a vehicle if it gets stolen. As you can understand also that the introduction of electrical vehicles has been a great opportunity for WirelessCar, where you are more dependent on being able to monitor the status of your battery and the state of charge that you have. And if you look, you can take the next picture, please, Andrea.
Yes.
Yeah, so for many of our customers, we've built solutions that are bespoke to them. And over the years, you can, of course, understand that some of the things that we do for our customers are the same. So we've started to package some of the basic things into products. So today, when we talk to a new customer, we can actually offer a lot of the basic services that the customer will need as already existing products. And for us, it's a lot of the benefit for us is that we can actually handle a lot of customers with the same solution, where we have a way of all the services that we have are multi-tenant, so we can have customers on the same software and actually sell our solutions as a service. And that's really where we are right now in transforming a lot of the services that we do into products, so that we can offer them in a very cost-efficient and operationally efficient way to many customers. So the lens, the connected mobility lens, the well-architected connected mobility lens. When we started doing this, Andrea, we didn't have a well-architected connected mobility lens.
Yeah.
So we have actually to learn a lot of the things together with AWS, and it's I think a great thing that now anyone starting in the same field can actually just read and get a lot of the knowledge, at least to start with. So Andrea, what can we find in the well-architected connected mobility lens?
Yeah, as you have said, WirelessCar today connects close to 13 millions of vehicles every day, every hour, every second, around the globe, in North America, Europe, and Asia, China mostly. So how can you scale whatever application, whatever product to a global market, connecting millions of vehicles, scaling to this huge amount of data? The answer from AWS is the well-architected framework and the well-architected connected mobility lens. So let's start from the well-architected framework, which is a well-known product from AWS since many years. Basically, the well-architected framework is a way to help customer design and building secure, high-performing, resilient, and efficient infrastructure built on the AWS cloud. How the well-architected framework works? Through a set of questions, the application of a customer running on AWS cloud is evaluated against what we call the pillars, the 6 pillars of the AWS framework, which are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and it has been added recently the sustainability pillars. So the well-architected framework is a set of questions that a customer can run against their own workload in order to find improvement point and filling the gaps to have operational excellence. We do internally use the well-architected framework in AWS for our own services. So the well-architected framework is aligned with what we are doing internally. And none of our application is released without having confronted with the AWS well-architected framework. Typically, a customer assemble a team with expertise in different areas and decide the scope, whether to test the application against each of the 6 pillars or against a single pillar, or a group of pillars. Then it gathers documentation, architectural diagram, metrics. And then the well-architected framework is run against the application. And the outcome is a prioritization path of gaps to fill and opportunity to gather in order to improve the application, to make the application more efficient, more secure. This is what generally well-architected framework does. So to extend the well-architected framework into specific industry domains, we have created the well-architected lens, which is an extension, a vertical, we can say, over a specific knowledge domain. For example, well-architected lens for machine learning, for software as a service, for migration, for IoT, for gaming, for banking, for healthcare. And we recently have added the last lens, which is the topic of this presentation, the connected mobility lens. So the connected mobility lens is the extension of the well-architected framework focused on the connected mobility workload, which Anders has described. And as I said, it is a global workload with challenging issues that we have to address in order to provide something. First of all, the connected mobility has shifted from a premium feature to a commodity feature. So since we are connecting millions of vehicles, we cannot have a consistent cost for every and each vehicle. Everything should be optimized, but everything should be reliable because, for example, we can have some emergency call features implemented in our connected mobility solution, and that feature must work every time. So the connected mobility lens, how it is developed? First of all, we have evaluated several scenarios. The vehicle and the user provisioning, which is about onboarding vehicles and users in the systems. Vehicle connectivity management, the bidirectional connection between the vehicle and the cloud. The vehicle data management and insight. That is the data meaning. As Karen has said in his first presentation, the connected mobility solution and the manufacturing in general produce the most data. So we have to extract value. We have to do data meaning over this huge amount of data to extract insights. And then the connected mobility core services, which I will explain more in the next slide. The connected mobility support systems, which are, as Anders was describing, autonomous driving, battery health management, and fleet management. And in the end, the customer experience management, which are personalized in-cabin experience for the end users of the car. Let's have a small deep dive in connected mobility core services and an use case, the driver and the passenger safety. For example, there are services, and WirelessCar has developed some of those services, where the end user of a car, inside of the car, can start an emergency call because they are in a dangerous situation. For example, after a car crash, the car can autonomously call the emergency services, or the end user of a car feels is in a dangerous situation and want to call the emergency. So this feature should work every time, regardless of the fact that connected mobility has shifted from a premium feature to a commodity feature. How we do this? How the connected mobility lens has helped in this area? We have defined the best practices. For example, we have stressed on the point that everything should be duplicated. Everything should be redundant in the vehicle, in the mobile network operators, and last but not least, in the cloud. Every three pieces of this path should be redundant. We have to design for intermittent and transient connectivity. We have to design for vehicles that can work when there is no connection in the cloud. And when the passenger of a car is in an emergency situation, this feature must work. Otherwise, we will have our reputation damaged. So over to you, Anders. How the connected mobility lens has helped WirelessCar? What are you thinking?
Yes, so I will take the opportunity to pick a few of the areas that are described in the document. And I think one of the most, at least one of the things that we've been working a lot with, say, the last 4 years, is cost optimization. And this is also an area where the promises that AWS makes around what will the cloud do for you, it's a lot about you are able to have your services on demand, and you can have cost control by making sure that if you don't use something, you can remove it, and if you, when you need it, you can increase the performance and get the performance that you need. If we go back 10 years, we had data centers, and building data centers was an entirely different economy and an entirely different way of looking on cost for the OEM, for the vehicle OEMs. And I think the whole way that we design systems has changed dramatically when we started to do our solutions for OEMs directly in the cloud. Because when you do a large OEM solution, it's usually connected, or it is in connection with a vehicle platform, and the vehicle platform project takes maybe 5-6 years, sometimes longer. And you start with building the vehicle, designing the vehicle, and then when you are sort of mid through the project, then you realize that it's soon time to also have the back office services that will be able to support this vehicle. And what typically happens is that a lot of the things in the vehicle is already designed. When you do software in the back office, you have better opportunities to adopt it to whatever problems there is in the vehicle platform. Another special thing is that when you launch the service, there aren't that many vehicles built yet, so you don't have that much vehicles to service. But if it's a large brand that will build many vehicles, in some years' time, you will have millions of vehicles to service. And I think an interesting thing that we've done with one of our biggest customers is that we actually, when we had the opportunity to build it directly in the cloud, we choose to do it with a lot of managed services. And we actually, when we had many back office services that we supplied to this OEM, and when we started, we had essentially no costs because we had lots of managed services. So if we don't have any vehicles, we don't have any cost. And that was that was very interesting for the customer. And what happens then? Then when the customer the factories start to produce vehicles and you start to fill up the population, the cost will grow essentially in proportion to how many vehicles you have. And that's fine. But what happens is that some services requires a lot more performance than other services. So what you have to do then is, and now you have to go back to what I said a little bit. Now you can go back again. I will rant about this because I think it's interesting. I said that when you build the things in the vehicle, when you build the ECUs, when you make the software for the ECUs that will run the service in the vehicle, that's built many years before it starts to talk to a back office. And it turns out that you don't really know exactly how the vehicles will interact with the back office. There will be surprises. And so what do you do then when there are surprises? Well, just because you have the services in the cloud, and if you've designed most of the infrastructure with code, And if you are working in a very agile way, and if you have a good way of measuring the cost and seeing where is it that the cost is taking off. You can see that last point in the best practices, implement the monitoring strategy. If you have that monitoring strategy, you will soon see which services will take off and start to cost too much. And what you do then is that you have to revamp the architecture, and you do what you can in back office to make sure that you can mitigate those cost explosions that you see. So what we've done is that things that will be very costly when you run it with managed services, you have to revamp and doing a different way. But actually, most of the services are just fine running them on managed services in AWS, and they are cost efficient to maintain and operate, and they are easy to maintain. But the learning here is really that you have to be able to monitor and really see where do you have a cost increase dependent on the behavior of the vehicles, and you have to, in an intelligent way, find that, and you have to mitigate it. So we've done a lot of that work the last 4 years, and it's been fairly successful. And if you go now, we can go to the next one. Thank you. So best practices: build a cost-effective solution that is scalable and yet easy to manage. And typically what we've done is that we've used a lot of lambdas to start with, and when we see that those will be too costly, or it doesn't really, those solutions doesn't really work, we typically have revamped them and made them into, for instance, containers. And that there are also a lot, I mean, you can do a lot of tricks and things with your solution to make sure that you don't spend too much. And so that's what we've been doing. And this was on auto scaling. Okay, if you service vehicles, you have to do auto scaling, because typically things will move up and down a lot during every week, because the performance or the deliverance of the systems will closely follow a typical work week of how we humans go about our life. So it goes up during the day, goes down during the night, it goes down during the weekend. What do we have in the last one? Let's say something, because I think the last picture also, Andrea. Yeah, security. And I think the recommendations that you find in the connected mobility lens are just very at the point, and they are not too difficult to write down, but they are actually quite difficult to follow. So within the OEM business, you have a lot of compliance to do, and you really need to know and have a good understanding of all the different standards and all that you have to be compliant with. And moreover, if you look a bit down here, you have train your staff, as it says also, and that's been I mean, when it comes to security, building the technical mechanisms are quite straightforward, but we have learned during the last couple of 2-3 years that we actually have to also retrain a lot of our staff, and that's not only staff working with cybersecurity. I mean, and it's not only the developer; it's really everyone at WirelessCar. We have to heighten the level of understanding for cybersecurity for everyone at the company, to be able to keep the sort of cybersecurity stance that we need and that is required from our customers. So those things are, as I said, easily written. It's a lot of work, but you have to do it.
And also, you have to respect different standards in China, in Europe, in North America. There are different compliance.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. Where in Europe we've spent a lot of time learning and understanding how to deal with personal identifiable information, and as we also deliver services in China, we've spent the last 2 years with understanding how to comply with, for instance, Chinese regulations around positions, which actually require you to do your solution in a very different way than what you can do in Europe. So there are a lot of learnings, and they result in a lot of work, and they really affect how your solution will be designed in the end. Should we end here and maybe open up for if there are any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Siva, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. What is VSOC? I think in the last slide I see that.
Yeah, was it Vehicle Security Operation Center? Yeah,
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's essentially your control tower for cybersecurity. And for us, typically, we have our own VSOC, and then we work together with the VSOCs at the different OEMs to monitor the security of our solution and making sure that we can respond if there are any cybersecurity incidents. So we have a complete organization as a VSOC at WirelessCar. We spend a lot of money on cybersecurity nowadays.
Got it. Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you, Anders and Andreas. If anybody has any question, feel free to raise your hand. We will unmute you. The raise hand button is on the lower panel. While other is asking question, I have one question for you, Andres. So what we have seen that the customer, like since connected mobility has evolved over time, so customer end up having multiple version of the software, like they end up supporting the version 1, version 2, and that is a lot of technical debt. So in your experience evaluating the well-architected review for the connected mobility workload, have you experienced anything like that? You want to share something?
Yeah, it's very much a part of life for a company that WirelessCar, that you, as I said, you build the back office solutions together with the vehicle platform, and then the vehicle platform lives for 15 years, and you have to maintain it in 15 years. So one of our ways of mitigating that problem is that we have packaged services into products, ready packaged services that can be used by many different OEMs, and then we can maintain just one set of a particular service. So that's one way of working with it. Another way that we would like to work with it, and that I think are happening, albeit slowly, is that we will see a lot more of edge computing in the connected mobility area, where you have the one designing the back office service and the way and what is fronting the customer on his mobile phone or customer service or whatever. They will also do some part of the code, the functionality that is needed in the vehicle, so that you can build it together. Because now we have this disconnect where the design in the vehicle is built long before we start to see the effect of it when you run it with many vehicles. So you had one of the best practices was you have to apply filtering. I didn't mention it, but it's so easy to understand that. Of course, you have to filter and make sure that the communication that you distribute over networks is communication and data that you really need. But when there are completely different organizations doing ECUs in the vehicles, services in the back office, and another organization doing the integration of it, you will have disconnects. And one way of handling them better is if you can have a smaller teams of people actually doing a larger stretch of the solutions. I hope that's what we will see in the near future, that you can actually control what will happen in the vehicle and set that design together with what you do in the back office.
Thank you. Great to hear that.
Mm.
Thank you once again, Anders and Andreas. If we don't have any question, I think we can move on to the next presenter.
Thank you very much for having us.